Hi, IS-810, which is no longer up on the site. Emergency support function number 10, oil hazard material response instructor guide, February 2009. Alright, topic, course overview, the display visual 1, emergency support function number 10, oil hazard material response, FEMA, ESF 10, oil hazards, September, ISO 810, February 9th, visual 1. Instructors note, present following key points. Purpose of this course is to familiarize participant with the function composition, emergency support function number 10, oil hazard material response, approximate 1 hour. Content or in outline might include following major topics: overview, purpose, scope, national contingency plan, coordination, primary agents, support agents, activities, national response system component summary, materials, instructor guide, student manual. Display visual 2. Objective is to describe the overall purpose and scope of the emergency support function number 10, identify supplemental assistance emergency support function number 10, provide state, tribal, local governments, identify typical activities accomplished by emergency support function number 10, resources, describe the types of partners formed by the emergency support function number 10, and other response agencies and organizations. Instructors note, present the following. And at the end of this course, the participant will be able to describe overall purpose and scope of the emergency support function number 10, and identify supply assistance for the emergency support function number 10, provide state, tribal, local governments, identify typical activities established by emergency support function number 10, resources, describe the type of the partnerships formed between emergency support function number 10 and other response agencies and organizations. Display number 3, introduction, tell us your name, your role in emergency management, what you hope to gain from this course, FEMA. Welcome to the department. To introduce yourself, then ask the participants to introduce themselves with a member of the table of the group, to ask for their names, roles in emergency management, and when they hope to gain from this course. Display number 4, National Response Framework, established with the comprehensive national hazard approach to domestic incident response, present overall key response principle, goals, structures, guide of the national response, include core document annexes and partner guides. Shows the National Response Framework, core document, emergency function annexes, support annex, incident annex, and partner guides. The instruction notes present the following key points. National Response Framework is a guide on to how the nation conducts all hazard response, builds up the National Incident Management System, coordinating structures to align with the key roles responsible across the nation, linking all levels of government and non-governmental organization, private sector. The National Response Framework is comprised of the core document, which describes the action of the guides of the national response, role, responsibility, response, action, response, organization, planning, or requirements to achieve effective national response to an incident that occurs. Emergency support function annex, which identifies the federal resources with the capabilities that are most frequently needed for the national response: transportation, firefighting, mass care. Support annex describes the essential supporting aspect of all the common incident for the financial management, volunteer donation management, private sector coordination. Incident annexes, which address the unique aspects on how to respond to 7 of the broad categories type of accident incidents: biological, nuclear, radiological, cyber, mass evacuation. Partner guides, which provide with a ready reference, describe the key rules and actions for the local, tribal, state, federal, and private sector response partners. Display number 5, emergency support functions are a primary operational level of mechanism to provide assistance organized around functional capabilities, emergency management, transportation, search and rescue, etc. Instruction notes present the following key points. Federal government, many of the type governments organize with many of the resources of the capabilities, as well as those certain private non-governmental organizations under the emergency support functions. Emergency support function, according with the federal FEMA or Federal Emergency Management Agency, through the National Response Coordination Center, National Regional Response Coordination Center, and Joint Field Offices. As a critical mechanism that can coordinate with functional capabilities, resources provided by the federal department agencies along with a certain private sector of the non-government organization. Know that some states also have an organized and emergency support function structured along this approach. Emergency support function, general display visual number 6, emergency support function, general duties. Commit agency assets, approve and implement mission assignments, and maintain a situational awareness report of the emergency support function operation, present agency on task force and ad hoc groups, serve the technical expert instruction notes, present the following key points, review the general emergency support function duties listed on the visual report. Emergency support function have the authority to commit the agency's assets. Display number 7, show the emergency support function coordinated to primary agencies and support agencies. The instructionals note present with these following key points. The emergency support function includes Emergency support function coordinator entry within assigned with the manage and oversight with a particular emergency support function. Primary agencies and emergency support function. Primary agency with the federal agency with a significant authority, reach over the capability, particular function within the emergency support function. Federal agency designated with emergency support function. Primary agency serve as federal evacuation agent under federal coordinated officers, Federal Resource Coordinator under the Non-Stanford Act, incentive to accomplish emergency support function mission. Support agencies are those entry with a specific capability to reach over the support with the primary agency executing the mission emergency support function. Emergency support function provides support with the other emergency support function, for example, ESF, emergency support function 3, Public Works Engineering Waste Support Role, emergency support function 5. Emergency management force to obtain heavy equipment and or demolition and service of needs of suppress incident-related fires. Display number 8, emergency support function coordinator, pre-incident planning coordination, ongoing contact primary support agency, coordinating with the private sector organization, prepared planning and exercise. The instruction note presented the following key points. Emergency support function coordinator has management oversight with a particular emergency support function. Note that describe the visual with emergency support function coordinator has role all throughout the incident management cycle. Display visual 9. Primary support agencies of the primary agency, federal agency with a significant authority, resource of the capability of a particular function within the emergency support function. Support agency assisted with the primary agency providing resource of the capability of the given and functional area. The instructional note presents the following key points. Emergency support function activated with the response to incident. The primary agency that is responsible for serving with the federal executive agent with under federal coordinating officer or federal resource coordinator for the non-Stafford Act incident to accomplish emergency support function. Orchestrating federal support within the functional area of the affected state. Provide staff with the operations and the fixed facility. Notify requesting assistance support agencies. National managing mission assignment coordinator with support agencies, appropriate state agencies. Working appropriate private sector that maximize available resource for the support and keeping of the other emergency support function and organizational informed of the emergency support function operational priorities and activities. Maintain training personnel for the support interagency emergency response and support teams. Support agencies are responsible creating operation equipped with the Department of Homeland Security or other designated emergency support function primary agencies with their own authority, subject matter expertise, capabilities, and other resources. Facilitating planning short and long-term incident management, recovery operation, the development and supporting operational plan, standard operation procedure, checklist, other job aid with concern, assisting first responder standards, assisting with the conduct with a situational assessment, furnishing available the personnel with the other resources support requested by the Department of Homeland Security or the emergency support function primary agency, providing input, periodic readiness assessment, participating training exercise aimed at continuous improvement of the response and recovery capabilities, identifying new equipment and capabilities required to prevent and responding with a new and emerging threat hazards or to improve the ability of addressing existing threats. Display visual 10, activation emergency support function. Not every incident requires an activation of the emergency support function. Emergency support function may be selectively activated for Stafford Act emergencies, major disaster declaration, non-Stafford Act incidents specified by the Homeland Security Directive, Homeland Security Presidential Directive Number 5. Introduction, President. The instructions note present the following key points. Emergency support function may be selectively activated with the Stafford Act, non-Stafford Act incidents under the circumstances defined in Homeland Security Presidential Directive Number 5. Not all incidents require federal support resolve with the activation of emergency support functions. FEMA can employ assets capable throughout the emergency support function to anticipate an approaching storm and event with the expected with the cause of a significant impact or result. The coordination emergency support function allows FEMA to position federal support or quick response through actual assistance cannot normally provide until the government response receives a presidential major disaster emergency declaration. Alright, display of visual number 11, emergency support function overview. Number 1, transportation. 2, communication. 3, public works. 5, firefighting. 4, firefighting. 5, emergency management. 6, mass care, emergency assistance, housing and human services. 7, logistic management, resource support. 8, public health and medical services. 9, search and rescue. Emergency support function number 10, oil hazard material response. 11, agricultural and natural resource. 12, energy. 13, public safety security. 14, long-term community recovery. 15, external affairs. Instructors note present the key points. The 15 emergency support functions listed in the visual of the emergency support function annex are available in the National Response Framework Center at FEMA.gov/NRF. Course of the emergency support function number 10, oil hazard material response. Describe the roles of Association Emergency Support Function number 10. Display number visual number 12, oil hazard material response. What issues associated with the hazmat incidents? Instructors notes. What issues associated with the hazmat incident for the facility with a discussion that is not mentioned and by participants present with the following points. Unless properly managed, the hazard material spill response can pose a threat to public health, welfare, and environment. Hazard might be oil, industrial chemicals, automobile batteries, even weapons of mass destruction. Hazmat materials can come in from an unexpected source of the contents home destroyed by a hurricane. In the event of the hazard material relief, the appropriate response to recover the action included efforts contain the disposal of the relief to minimize the impact of additional contaminant removal. The surrounding air, water must be monitored to ensure the safety of an area and protect natural resources. For the course explained by the emergency support function number 10, oil hazard material response provides mechanism coordinated federal assistance to help communities recover safely from an incident and move forward. Display visual number 13, emergency support function number 10. Purposes when activated provide mechanism coordinating federal assistance supplies, state and tribal local response, potential actual discharge of oil, and uncontrolled release hazard material. Notes, emergency support function number 10, oil hazard material response was when activated provides a mechanism coordinated with the federal assistance supplement, state, tribal, local response, resources, potential actual discharge of oil, uncontrolled release of the hazard material. For the purpose statement, page 1, emergency support function number 10, oil hazard material response annex. Display visual 14, emergency support function number 10, scope. Address incidents involving an additional accidental release of oil hazardous substance pollutants, contaminants, including those that are chemical, biological, and radiological. For purposes of the emergency support function number 10, annex hazard material, the general term intended with the meaning of the hazardous substance pollutants, contaminants defined with the National Contingency Plan. Hazard materials include chemical, biological, radiological substances where the accidental initial release response to oil hazard material incident were generally carried out with accordance with the National Oil Hazard Substance Pollution Contingency Act, Contingency Plan, Title 40 CFR Part 300. Scope of the information can be found on page 1, emergency support function number 10, oil hazard material response annex. Display visual 15, National Contingency Plan. The National Contingency Plan is a federal blueprint responding to oil spills, hazmat releases, established responders' roles and responsibilities, established unified command structure, managing response, set response priorities. Key points, National Oil Hazardous Substance Pollution Contingency Plan, more commonly called National Contingency Plan or NCP. The federal government blueprint of the emergency support function number 10 uses the responding both oil spill hazardous substance relief. The National Contingency Plan establishes national response team and regional response teams and their role and responsibility of the national response system. Some of the general responsibility of the federal on-scene coordinators authority redesignated of those coordinators require notification of any of the discharge release above a certain level of the National Response Center. Establish unified command structure for managing response to discharge. Display visual number 16, emergency support function number 10, coordinator and primary agents. Environmental Protection Agency is the emergency support function number 10, coordinator. The serve as the primary agency incident involving the inland area to take action to prepare, to prevent, minimize, mitigate, and threat posed by the hazard material. Instructors, page, key, and points. Environmental Protection Agency is the emergency support function number 10, coordinator. For instance, involving the inland, the Environmental Protection Agency serves as the primary agency, and the emergency support function number 10, primary agency, EPA, leads the federal response to actual potential oil hazard material incidents. Take appropriate action to prepare, minimize, mitigate the threat posed by hazard materials. Display number 17, emergency support function number 10, primary agency, U.S. Coast Guard, Department of Homeland Security, and U.S. Coast Guard lead the federal response incident of the coastal areas. Take action to prepare, prevent, minimize, mitigate threat posed by hazard material. Instruction key points. Incident activity in coastal zone area with the Department of Homeland Security, U.S. Coast Guard serve the primary agents. Incident affecting both coastal areas, inland and EPA. Primary agency, Department of Homeland Security, U.S. Coast Guard serve as the deputy. Emergency support function number 10, primary agency, Department of Homeland, U.S. Coast Guard. The leads of the federal response to actual potential oil materials coastal areas and takes appropriate action to prevent, minimize, mitigate threat posed by hazard material. number 18, visual 18, supporting 2. Department of Agriculture provide logistics support by the National Ocean Atmospheric Administration predicts pollutant movement, dispersion, and characteristics over time. Department of Energy provides advice for the removal of the disposal of the radioactive contamination, and that's a FEMA. Our instructor note presented the following key points. Partners in the provide with emergency support function number 10. Services include the Department of Agriculture will provide logistical support for the incident commands and expertise of the personnel and communication. Department of Commerce for the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, which predicts pollutant movement of the dispersant characteristics over time. Department of Energy, which provides advice on the removal and disposal of the radioactive contamination. Supporting agencies 2 at 2. Display visual number 19. Department of Health and Human Services assess the human health health hazard. The Department of Interior helps protect natural cultural resources. Department of Defense direct respond with the incident involved with the release of the hazard material. Your present instructor notes presented the following key points. Additional partner for the providing emergency support function number 10 services include the Department of Health and Human Services, which assists with assessment of the health hazard. The Department of Interior, which provides technical assistance in protecting natural and cultural resources for the Department of Defense, which directs the response with the incidents involved with the release of the hazardous material. Display visual number 20. Emergency support function number 10 actions. Emergency support function number 10 may assess extent of contamination contained, stabilize, treat, and dispose of oil hazmat, issue permits for and monitoring debris disposal. Remove drums, barrels, containers, contaminate building structures, collect hazard, household hazard waste, monitor, sample, mitigate natural resources. Alright, in the event of the potential actual release of the hazard material, action supplement the state, tribal, local resource for the emergency support function number 10 may include access, the extent of the contamination, stabilize, treat the disposal of oil hazmat, remove the drums and barrel containers, contaminate building structures, collect household hazard waste, issue permits for and monitor debris disposal, monitor water quality, sample air quality, and mitigate damage to the natural resources. Display visual number 21, discussion questions. What are examples of the activities in the scope of the emergency support function number 10? What are the examples of the activities outside the scope of the emergency support function number 10? Alright, instructors note present the following key points. Conduct the activities follow, tell the person working the table teams, expect we're not going to do the activity. Visual display number 22. National Response System is organized network agency programs, resource authorities responsible oil, hazmat, response compromise, on-scene coordinators, other components. Response actions are carried out under the emergency support function number 10, conducted in accordance with the National Response System. The National Response System organized network of the federal, state, tribal, local agencies, program resource authority responsible for the oil hazard material response. National Response System either to respond to smaller oil hazard incidents on a day-to-day basis, plugs in with the National Response Framework under the emergency support function number 10. For larger scale incidents, state, tribe, participate in the National Response System at regional and local levels following regional and areas oil hazard substance pollution contingency plan. Play visual 23. Federal on-scene coordinators. Federal on-scene coordinators active with the key emergency support function number 10. Representative of the National Response System at the Incident Command Post. Interface local state officials at the Incident Command Post level. Coordinate integrated emergency support function number 10. Resources on site. And the instruction note presents the following key points. The on-scene section chief acts for the key emergency function number 10, representative of the national response on the incident command post, interface with local state officials of the incident command post level, coordinate integrated emergency support function number 10, resources on site, and for other ESTF number 10, resources on site, report with the federal office on scene coordinator. Display visual 24. Other national responses component of the key components include national response team, regional response team, national response center, and states and tribes. Other key component of the national response system includes national response team, regional response team, national response center. State and tribes participate in the national response system at regional and local levels following regional and area hazard substance pollutant contingency plan. Display visual number 15, display visual number 25. Department of Defense and Department of Energy federal on-scene coordinators Department of Defense, Department of Energy provide federal on-scene coordinators for hazmat emergencies involved in their facilities. The materials and weapons are responsible for addressing both on-site and any off-site response action. Instructions are now presented the following key points. The Department of Defense and the Department of Energy provide federal on-scene coordinators for the response to hazmat material, oil emergencies involved with the facility, material, and weapon. The Department of Defense, the Department of Energy on-scene coordinators are responsible to address both on-site and off-site response actions. Play Visual 26, Environmental Response Team. The Environmental Response Team can provide air surveillance, analytical laboratory system, or analytical laboratory environmental risks as hazmat, oil hazmat assessment, freight and transport, drive the underwater investigation, cleaning remedial technicians. National Response System includes a number of the teams specialized experts that can deploy with the federal on-scene coordinator and other federal, state, local officials with the Environmental Response Team. With one of EPA's special team, environmental response team capabilities include air surveillance, analytical laboratory, environmental risk assessment, oil hazmat assessment, freight transportation, drive team, underwater investigation, cleanup, remediation techniques, 24-hour hotline response on scene and reach back. Examples of the emergency environmental response team include after Space Shuttle Columbia disaster, the disaster emergency response team worked with federal on-site coordinators, FEMA, the NASA, for the recovery of the investigation. Emergency response team conducted environmental monitoring in the air, assisted with cleanup of the hazardous material of the Space Shuttle. Washington, D.C., Florida, and 6 other states were sites for the anthrax contamination fever in the mail. As part of the cleanup effort, the emergency response team the environmental response team provided technical assistance after the chlorine dioxide was pumped into contaminated buildings, killed anthrax. Explorer of the the environmental response team analyzed the air outside of the building. Sure the areas were saved after the terrorist act of the World Trade Center. Environmental response team joined federal, state, local responders. The environmental response team set up mobile gas analyzers to monitor the air quality on the site, set up health risk procedures for the responders. Display visual number 27. The National Strike Force, U.S. Coast Guard, National Strike Force provides a highly trained, experienced personnel, specialized equipment, facility, preparedness for response to an oil hazard, substance pollution incident, helps protect public health and environment. Instruction note presented to the fee column. Key point: the U.S. Coast Guard and National Strike Force provide highly trained, experienced personnel, specialized equipment, and facility with the preparedness, respond with the oil hazard, substance pollution incident, with the order to protect the health and environment. The National Strike Force total of 200 personnel include the National Strike Force Coordinator, Center of the Atlantic Strike Team, the Gulf Strike Team, Pacific Strike Team, and the Public Information Information Team. Example of the National Strike Force include the members of the Atlantic Strike Team who are deployed with the site of the World Trade Center Act for the tactical number task, including mounting air ground zero, setting up a wash chamber for the decontaminating workers, establishing landfills, and screening the disposal of the hazardous waste material. Members of the Gulf Strike Team were deployed with a train derailment at Grantville, South Carolina. A total of 26 cars derailed, including 5 containing hazardous chemicals. In the incident, 9 people were killed, 250 injured, more than 5,000 residents evacuated. The Gulf Strike Team conducted the search for the rescue operation, established evacuation site that provided on-scene communication. During cleanup operation, continued conducted site safety site with the tanker car offloading operation. Members of the Pacific Strike Team were deployed with a bulk carrier load with the fuel oil ran aground off the coast of Hawaii. Pacific Strike Team members supervised the removal of 148,000 gallons of oil from a ground vessel and conducted site safety oversight during the cargo removal of the vessel refloating operations. Display 28, the Knowledge Review and Summary, Instructions, and the Review Question Student Manual. Be prepared to share an answer with the class in 5 minutes. If you need clarification material, presented with the course to the instructor. And then show the conduct of the review, taking the exam, and notice it says go to HPA Training FEMA website and click on the link I-801, download the final exam you want. Alright, display visual feedback. Please complete the course evaluation concurrents are important. Show the answers and the questions. That was IS-810, Emergency Support Function number 10, Hazard Material Response.